Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Yesterday, Conor Benn made the statement that he is a free man because the anti-doping panel have said, off you go, you're free to, ply your trade and so on and so forth. And he seemed, he released a statement. I'm not convinced he wrote it, but, he seems to have finally buckled down and accepted some advice instead of trying to bluster his way through everything and give off this sort of self-entitled vibe. Finally, he's allowing people to advise him, and he's taking some of that advice on board. But Eddie Hearn's bestie, Simon Jordan, he was on TalkSport, and he was saying, well, hang on a minute. Conor Benn hasn't been cleared. He hasn't got a British licence. And in actual fact, it's true that the board and UKAD have 21 days to appeal the anti-doping panel's decision. So they may well appeal it again. So this is going around and around and around. Now, if they do decide, the board do decide to appeal, then I can't see Conor getting a licence off them. They will say, well, we're not licensing you until this is finally put to bed. And there was an appeal before. There was an appeal before. This has been going on for 2 years. You would have thought there would be some sort of deal cut between Benn's team and the board, and that Ben would have taken some sort of retroactive ban. For all I know, he may have done. But Frank Warren popped up on TalkSport about an hour later, and Simon Jordan was there trying to stir the pudding, trying to wind Frank up by saying you've changed your tune. Now that you're mates with Eddie, you're softer on the Ben situation than you were 2 years ago. And Warren said, no, you're talking a lot of crap. How's your mate Ben Shalom getting on? There's a little relationship between Simon, supposedly, allegedly, the relationship between Simon and Ben Shalom. And, it was all a bit handbags, silliness. But that's what Jordan does. That seems to be his shtick, the pantomime villain. And Warren said, look, because Jordan was saying, look, if you have, surely you believe in the fighter taking full responsibility for any failed test. Ultimately, the buck stops with them. And Warren said the way that it should be, the procedures that should be in place, it should be that, yes, if a fighter pops dirty for a PED test, they then have to go to a hearing. And if you are applying for a license with the British Boxing Board of Control, you should have to agree to that procedure prior to you being issued your license. So in other words, you're contracted essentially to agree that if you do pop hot for PEDs, you've agreed to go to a hearing. Ben didn't do this. He handed back his license or ripped it up. His old man actually 20 years previously or 20 plus years previously ripped up his license as well, following one of his fights in America. So it was a little bit of history repeating itself. But it was the wrong thing to do, because if Ben had taken his lawyers to the board, they might have been, and he'd gone through the hearing process, that would have been a quicker way than of simply, throwing your toys out of the pram. And now he may be innocent. Let's just play devil's advocate and say that Ben is innocent, okay, and always has been innocent. I understand his outrage at, being dragged through the mud, because that's an unpleasant thing. If you're innocent, you get accused of something, it's slanderous, But you would think that when he had his, 100,000 page, whatever the hell it was, document that he put together, all supposedly scientifically sifted through by people that he hired, you'd think if that was actual evidence, that he'd have handed it to the board and said, this is my side of the argument scientifically, and then they could have assessed it and said, okay, all right, well, you popped hot, we'll give you a year ban, which is nothing, absolutely nothing. He could have fought abroad, which he did twice already anyway, while he sat out his ban. I mean, I don't know what the board's view is of that sort of thing happening. Perhaps if you get licensed by another country, I think there are. It's a view that the board take they take a rather grim view of it, put it that way. But something could have been done, because 2 years on, even though he is claiming, yes, the anti-doping panel have found me innocent, I'm a free man, I've got parole or whatever, that would depend on whether the board and UKAD decide to appeal that decision by the anti-doping panel. Now, another thing Warren said was, and Jordan actually agreed with it, actually Jordan said it first and then Warren repeated it when he came on the air, is that if Ben is actually found conclusively to be innocent, then he should be open to some sort of recompense to suing XYZ, ABC, whoever it is, because he's more or less lost 2 years of his career. And his name's been dragged through the mud, and he could probably sue somebody, whoever was culpable for that erroneous test. He could sue them for millions, and that's another thing that has to be considered as well. So this whole thing is a sort of clusterfuck of nonsense, and it seems to be going on. It was supposed to be put to bed yesterday. It hasn't been yet. I suspect that the board and UKAD will say, "Look, let's just get rid of this, okay? We won't appeal the anti-doping panel's decision to say Ben is free to fight. We won't go through any more rigmarole. You can fight. For all I know, there may have been a retroactive ban put in place. I don't know. But yeah, it is a bit strange when you get, Simon Jordan sort of ambushing Frank Warren on TalkSport, and Ben isn't even Warren's fighter. And Warren said, I don't know the details. He's not my fighter. I don't know the details. I haven't read the evidence. I'm with Warren on that one. But Warren is saying what should happen is, and this is not currently in place, is that when you apply for a license with the board, you are agreeing that if you fail a test, you are going to attend a hearing. So that's in place from the start. Okay, rather than all this, well, I'm not attending the hearing. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Well, you're not attending the hearing. Well, you agreed to attend it when we gave you your license. Thank you very much. We'll have the license back. Some people just throw the license away anyway. But I think it would be clearer to every fighter. I mean, I would go even further. I would say that it isn't just the fighter who's culpable. I would say that his team are also culpable. So he's got a dietitian, strength and conditioning coach, trainer. They're all in the pot together. So their licenses should be in jeopardy if one of their fighters, who they are directly involved with, fails a test. I think the stricter you are, the more resilient you are, the more, I'm trying to avoid using the word draconian, but the tougher you are on this issue, the fewer cases you'll get. And as I've said before many, many times, I'm not someone who simply says, I'll throw my hands up and well, they're all at it, so let it go. No, I don't quit like that. I wouldn't quit like that. I don't think the sport should quit like that. There's always been cheats in sport. In time and memoriam, there's always been cheats in life. You don't just roll over and say, well, we'll just make it the Wild West, No. I think when it comes to cheats, especially in combat sports, which are already dangerous enough, you have to put very, very stringent procedures in place, and you have to stick to them, and you have to be really tough, really, really tough with it. Not cut corners, not be vague, not be sort of fuzzy-minded about it. No, you failed a test, you and your team are in trouble now. And it's the onus of proof is on you to come back and show us. If you think you're innocent, you're saying you're innocent, prove it. Because this is our evidence. A hot test. That's our evidence, and you're nicked and you're done. And you agreed to it when you took the license out. You can have a hearing, but if you don't present any evidence to the contrary, any real evidence, you're culpable. But then we don't live in an era, do we, where personal responsibility seems to count for a great deal. Anyway, let me know what you think. I know you're sick of this subject. I know you are, because to be honest, so am I. But this is a boxing channel, and I do like to even though sometimes I lose the will to live with this sort of stuff, I do like to sort of report the news. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, let me know what you think. If you've got any opinions, comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new and hit the like button, because that helps us out. And yeah, thank you very much. I always appreciate your time, and bye for now.